We have a huge culture problem. The United States used to be a Christian country, and now I would say that we are officially a post-Christian country. The culture topics that I'm talking about and I want to touch on is going to be pride, homosexuality, idolatry, blasphemy, and music. So, in our culture, pride is a good thing. And this is completely opposite of what the Bible lays out. And we see that, pride leads to destruction. But for some reason now pride is like the ultimate good. Like just be proud and you're good. And then we also see homosexuality. And these kind of go hand in hand, where it's like, the only reason that, people that are gay, end up committing suicide, it's because everyone treats them so hatefully. And while I'm not going to deny that people are very hateful, and especially against people that are different than them, I don't think that means that if we just have enough pride for those people, that the root issue is going to go away. Because the root issue is being a homosexual. The next thing is idolatry. So we see this in the Bible, right? Where there are people making false gods and they're practicing idolatry. And I kind of read that, I'm like, how could you be so silly to make false gods? When you're so close with God as a culture, and then you turn away so fast. But it's crazy how many idols we have in our culture now, because God is almost seen as like an affiliation. It's not God first, because if God's not first, whatever comes before God is an idol. So if you put money, fame, power, sex, pleasure before God, those are all idols. So money is a really common idol. And for a long time, I was putting money before God. And I never want to do that, because God should be our number one priority. We should, follow him with our whole mind, heart, and soul. With our whole mind, heart, and soul. And the last thing is blasphemy. Blasphemy is like built into our language now, which, if we go back to like Judaism times, taking, God's name in vain was punishable by death. And it was so holy that people wouldn't even write it down. And now everyone says, Jesus Christ, every time that something bad happens. And it's like a cuss word, because we take things to the extreme naturally, and nobody has the fear of God. God can't do anything about it. I'm going to say his name, in anger and frustration and all this stuff. And it's like, that's very serious. It's more than we realize, but it's just baked into our culture. And so it's just one more thing where it's like, this is totally acceptable. It's totally normal to take God's name in vain. And people say here, like, hey, that's not right. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. They're like, what? That's just what everyone does. And most of all, I think one of our biggest things that I did not realize for the longest time that we're doing is child sacrifice. Now, this is kind of, that's a very big, word or whatever. But I think it's really happening. And this is kind of how I had it described to me, right? So, okay. So abortion is murder. And this is because human life begins at conception. So regardless of their size, their development, or their sustainability outside the womb, they are a human. And their life is valuable because they are made in the image of God, right? So it's murder to kill them. And now the thing is, it's not only murder, but usually the justification for abortion is because we have something important we need to do, right? Like if a woman needed to go play in the WNBA, everyone would be like, you go girl, go get an abortion and go follow your dreams. So you're sacrificing your child in order to play basketball. And it's like, wow, at WNBA, that's really good. That's, like a good goal, like go do that. But on the other hand, it's like, no matter how important, we shouldn't be sacrificing our children, murdering them to pursue, anything, whether that's $1 million or, fame or whatever. So basically our culture has devolved to, Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's pretty sad. As I said in the last video, I think that our hearts as a culture is just far away from God. And a lot of people don't realize it. Almost no one realizes it. And not even a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians are culturally involved, and they do everything that the culture says is okay, but then they say they're Christians. And like, yeah, like I'm a good person based on the cultural standards. It's like, wow, you can't base your morality off of this culture, or you'll be going so far from God's commandments. And I see that with Christians that are, sleeping with their girlfriends, they take God's name in vain. It's like, it's no big deal. Like, that's what's acceptable in our culture. And we read it back in the text, right? Where it's like, back then they didn't really have like this stuff, or they were kind of dumb back then. But it's like they were, they're just as smart as we were. Like, they didn't have information to the internet or anything like that. But people back then were not any less sophisticated than we are. Like, they're just people. And so why would the rules that apply to them not apply to us? Like, the ceremonial laws are, specific to Israel, but God's commandments are for all time, and he says that they won't pass away. So how can we just so, lightly brush away things because it's culturally accepted, right? Shouldn't we be following God? Because if whatever is accepted by the culture is right, then, if you lived in Nazi Germany, then killing Jews or, turning in Jews to the Nazis was like, fine, And so it's like, well, I'm a Christian, but my morality is based on the culture. It's like, man, you can't do that. You got to stand up for what's right. So this last thing is music, right? And music kind of reflects culture. So a lot of times, if you just listen to whatever music is the best or the most popular at the time, it is very bad. And I went through a phase where I was listening to the most popular music because like I just got on a phone or whatever, and I was like listening to music, and I'm like, wow, these ones sound really good. Just listen to like the top charts. But it's like, I don't really listen to lyrics that much, so I thought it was fine. But then I realized, like, after listening to the song over and over again, I'm like, wow, this song is like about sex and drugs and money, fame, and power, pride, etc. And it's like, it's just so bad. And we fill our lives with that stuff over and over and over again, and we sing it, we memorize the lyrics. It's like, why don't we, listen to something that's edifying? And once I switched my music, man, it's like my spiritual life completely changed. And how I felt, my mood after listening to music, like my music builds me up now. And it's really cool because there's some really good Christian music that is just like amazing. Like, I just sing it over and over again, like, put this song on replay. So I think that music is a bigger deal than we realize. And a lot of Christians, I think that's like the first thing they compromise on is like music. Because I know for the longest time, that was like the main thing I was compromising on. Is like, yeah, the song like has a cuss word and like it's talking about, sex here and here, whatever. But it's like, it's good, But it's like, once I moved away from that stuff and looking back, I'm like, man, that stuff was really nasty. Like, it's just, the devil wants to get a foothold in your life in any way. So I'd encourage any of you, if you guys have music that's, is not edifying, just cut it out, and find something that really is, and it's out there. It's out there. I even actually have a playlist on this channel. I think you can go find it. You can go find it on my homepage, where it's like Christian bangers. There's like 80 tracks on there that are like, that's the kind of music I like. It's not everyone's going to like that, but that's the kind of music that I started listening to, and wow, it's powerful stuff. Like one of those songs is just like, it's called Holy Spirit by Holby, and I just sing that song over and over again. And it's like, it starts off the song, hey, if there's anyone that is not a believer out there, just sing this song with me. It says like, Holy Spirit, come into my life. And it's like, it's kind of like a presentation of the gospel in a song, and it's like beautiful. I just love it. And every time I sing it, I'm like, yeah, it's like almost a prayer, like, Holy Spirit, come into my life. I need you, I need you, God. Like, every time it just brings me closer to God. So it's really powerful stuff. So music kind of is it's kind of the linchpin. It's kind of the center of our culture, right? And so it's really important what we listen to. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope, somebody gets something out of this. I'm basically just talking to myself most of the time, but I'll catch you guys around. And if you like the video, you should like it for me. Thanks.